Today's video, we're going to be breaking down every single DPS spec and ranking them from most fun to honestly some specs that are quite boring. Remember, this list is mostly going to be about fun, how the class is feeling rotationally, how their tier sets are, is there good gameplay variety, how is the class thematically heading into the new patch. All of these determine what's fun. There is some slight power involved in this, but let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into it. Sorry about the technical difficulty, guys. Starting off first, we do have, of course, man, the Frost Death Knight. Listen, it might not even be close here. Frost Death Knight, I think, is by far the most fun spec on the PTR. Now, of course, there is some slight player power tied to this, you know, whole tier list, whatever, because if you're doing great damage, of course, everything's going to feel fun, right? But that's not the case here with Death Knight. The rework for them on their talent tree has opened up so much build variety and just tons of gameplay variance that makes Frost one of the most fun it's ever been. Not only that, they reworked Breath of Sindragosa to make it feel the best it's ever been. And from a base rotational standpoint, it is just, mwah, it's a chef's kiss. It is absolutely perfect. I love it. There isn't a single thing I would change rotationally about Frost Death Knight right now. That's how good it is. Now, I specifically love in Mythic Plus how every pull you have your cooldowns ready to go to deal some crazy damage with, you know, Pillar of Frost, Reaper's Mark. Every pull, you're getting that. And then occasionally you get your Breath of Sindragosa, and then everything will just die. The animations on this spec are amazing. The class theme is absolutely there. And I'm very surprised that Frost DK feels as good because personally, you know, I've been the guy that always likes Unholy Death Knight more, but not this time, man. I love this spec so far. On top of all that, their tier sets are really impactful. They change how your gameplay is by a good amount, and it's just perfect all around. If you ever had an interest in playing Frost DK, it is a blast to play on the PTR right now. Definitely go check it out. Okay, moving on next. This one might be a little bit biased, but second, we're talking about Fire Mage, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I'll let you know right here, right now. If you know what you're doing on Fire Mage, this class is very far from boring. There are moments when you're planning like 4 to 5 global cooldowns ahead. Haste, of course, is your preferred stat, and you're spamming things so fast, but they feel very impactful, and you have to prep accordingly, and if you don't, you're going to get punished. So there is like a kiss-curse situation here where if you know what you're doing, it feels really good, but if you don't know what you're doing, of course, one of the major caveats of Fire Mage is if you don't really get good combustion windows, you're not going to do good damage. The spec will not be fun. It is going to feel terrible. But if you get your rotation going and you're fighting a lot of mobs at once and you get your combustion window effectively, it feels so much fun playing Fire Mage. I absolutely love it. You're casting all your abilities on the move. You're getting those automatic crits. The animations are just exploding. There's fire flying around everywhere. It's awesome. I love it. I think it's such a great design spec. And also, I love the execute mechanic with Scorch, you know, automatically critting when a target gets below a certain percentage of health. So I think it's a lot of fun. I think both their tier sets are really good as well for both of their hero talent trees for Frostfire and Sunfury. They have been getting some nerfs over the last couple of weeks, so we're talking about damage departments. That's a whole separate topic. But in terms of pure fun, both the hero talent trees are fun. Both the tier sets are fun. The base rotation's good. I like the design, the class fantasy there, the theme is there, animation's good. I'm loving Fire Mage. They're absolutely a blast to play heading into the new season. But anyways, let's move on now to the next one, which is going to be Enhancement Shaman. Now listen, I hate to say it, but Enhancement Shaman is one of the most fun specs right now on the PTR. I'm going to say it up front, I'm not really a guy who likes to button mash and have a priority rotation rather than a set rotation. But man, the Tempest tier set, you know, constantly shoving you into Ascendance. It's just so much fun when you get in there, you're just spamming Wind Strike, and it's dealing all your damage for you. It's hilarious. It's freaking awesome. I have a clip on screen of someone hitting like 50 million DPS on it. It is absolutely ridiculous. Not only that, I've always been a huge sucker for Enhancement Shaman, you know, and Shaman in general, I guess thematically forever since classic World of Warcraft. So Shaman has always had like a near and dear place in my heart for me personally. It's just hilarious when you have all your cooldowns ready to go. You get into Ascendance, you're just spamming out Tempest, you're spamming Wind Strike over and over, and you're just blowing shit up. It is an absolute blast. I will say outside of the Ascendance window, it does get a little bit button mashy, and I feel like Enhancement Shaman can use some pruning just a little bit, because there's a lot of things going on here, and it's kind of annoying sometimes to keep up with like all the cooldowns you got to get going and prep for your next go window, but that's not even something I'm really worried about because this Ascendance window and the tier set bonus is so much fun. It just negates all of it. I love their tier set for both specs. I do think Totemic needs a buff right now, but overall, both the specs are great. Thematically, Enhancement's one of my favorite classes in the game. I love Shaman. I love the animations. I love the tier set. The burst is awesome. Love Enhancement Shaman heading to the new season. Very, very fun spec. Moving on next, we do have the start of the A tier being Shadow Priest. Now, I'm going to be honest, this was a very big surprise to me. I haven't liked Shadow Priest gameplay for a very long time, probably since Surrender to Madness. But this season, they updated a bunch of their talents, and the talent tree is really well designed now, in my opinion. I think the capstones still need some buffs, but that's beside the point. You have a lot of ways to boost your insanity generation with a lot of different talents now. Your dots feel more impactful. Shadowy apparitions actually deal damage. And the creme de la creme, guys, you get 2 charges of Shadow Crash, which means Psychic Link is up pretty much 24/7 on like 10 mobs at a time, which is, oh my god, so great for Mythic Plus. So Shadow Priest across the board for Mythic Plus and rating, they're performing exceptionally well, which I think their rotation is very fun. I love the class fantasy of Shadow Priest. You're that dark caster that shoots out, you know, shadow magic and void magic combined to deal damage. You're very unique from a class spec perspective as well. You're in shadow form. Everyone knows who you are from halfway across the room, so it's really cool also. And it's just a lot of fun, man. I can't believe I'm saying this as a caster. Shadow Priest feels phenomenal from a gameplay perspective to play right now. It's one of those specs that is just, it's super rare when things line up for the spec and things feel great, but when it does line up, I love it. I'm really happy for all the Shadow Priest players out there. I'm particularly just in love with that 2 charges of Shadow Crash. Something as simple as that, as well as some talent changes, because really update them and shoot them through the moon, and we're seeing it now. It's happening on the PTR, and it's fantastic. They have been getting some slight nerfs over the last few weeks. I mean, it is what it is. They've been absolutely bonkers on the PTR, but from a gameplay rotational perspective, they are so much fun. They are a blast to play. Fantastic caster heading into the new season. Moving on next, boy, oh boy, we got the Marksmanship Hunter. Listen, I'm going to be honest. I've never really liked Hunter in general. Where's the Hunter here? Oh, there he is. I've never really liked Hunter in general. I'm going to be honest. I've always been a sucker for just memeing on Hunters. But man, I hated the fact that I loved the spec on the PTR. It almost got me a little bit, you know what I mean? From a core rotational standpoint, they have one of the most smooth and buttery rotations in the game, and that's a sword I can die on for sure. They made really solid changes to their talent tree this season. Not only that, they updated one of my favorite hero talent trees in the game, which is Dark Ranger. It is so cool thematically. It does a lot of cool effects now. Bleak Powder's really, really nice. And Dark Ranger in general is just 10 times more fun to play than ever. So really exciting time if you like that spec. They've also been getting adjustments the last few weeks, which, you know, rightfully so. They've had to get nerfed overall because they've been one of the best specs on the PTR. I think their damage was absolutely nuclear. They did get hit pretty hard this last week with like 10% damage reduction, but I think it was warranted, but they're still going to perform really well. I love rotationally that right now, every time you use your explosive shot, you instantly get a lock and load, which you're just getting instant AoE aim shots. You're exploding the explosive shots, and then you pair that with the black arrow afterward from Dark Ranger. It's a lot of fun, man. So thematically, I absolutely love it. Sentinel's also really good as well. It's sort of that Tyrande Whisperwind vibe. You know, you shoot out the owl, and you deal primarily most of your damage is from those really, really chunky AoE aim shots. Dude, I've had an aim shot hit for like 21 million damage on one single aim shot. So like, yeah, the damage had to get nerfed the last couple of weeks. I think it was crazy, but I cannot express enough how fluid and just overall fun the Marksmanship Hunter has felt. If you've ever enjoyed Marksmanship Hunter ever, this can be absolutely a perfect time for you to play this spec. They're performing really well. Even after the nerfs settle down, they're going to be fine. They're doing really, really great, and it's a great class fantasy for both Sentinel and Dark Ranger. Really nice spec heading into the new season. Moving on next, of course, guys, we have a no-brainer here. This one's obvious. The Retribution Paladin. Listen, I'm going to keep this short and sweet, ladies and gentlemen. Wake of Ashes into Hammer of Light is juice. It is the juice, okay? It's nothing but juicy, and there is nothing you can say to change my mind about it. I love doing this combo since back in the beta of The War Within over a year ago, and a year later, I still love to do it today. That's how much fun it actually is. Every 25 seconds, you automatically pop wings when you hit Wake of Ashes, you pair it with the Hammer of Light, and then you're working on keeping up those Empyrean hammers, and the rotation's fun, the damage is there, and it's a blast, man. It's too much fun to pass up on. There's never any downtime between like your big burst moments. So you constantly have a bunch of AoE damage. You have a bunch of utility so you can save your party if you actually use utility. Some rep paladins just don't, which is crazy. But, you know, it's just awesome, man. I love rotationally and hero talent-wise, they're phenomenal. Now, talking about, the class thematically, everyone knows Paladin's one of the coolest classes in the entire game, if not the coolest. If they're supposed to be, like, canonically a hero of World of Warcraft that you're supposed to end all the final bosses with and kill the raid bosses with, it's probably gonna be a Ret Paladin. It's probably not gonna be the Goblin Rogue or, like, the Survival Hunter Blood Elf, you know what I mean? No, it's probably gonna be a human Retribution Paladin, so you're kind of the hero of the story, and you're the main character here, so that's cool as well. Listen, I absolutely love Retribution Paladin. They also just got some massive buffs this last week, so their single target is looking better. We're gonna have to do some raid testing with that, but man, it's a great time to be a Retribution Paladin player. Both their hero talent trees are good. The tier sets are phenomenal for both. The gameplay's fun. Very, very great spec overall. I think anyone would love to play this spec yet again heading into the new season. Moving on to the next one. I'm going to be a little bit biased here, guys. I got to put Destruction Warlock up on the A tier. Listen, they were my main this last season, but they just got some nice buffs this last week for my favorite spec in the game for Warlock, and that's Diabolus Destruction Warlock. And what this means is that you're hitting these Chaos Bolts that hit for like 8 to 10 million damage sometimes, while also summoning out these Legion demons to come aid you in combat, like the big giant Felguard who comes out and slashes enemies in front of you. And dude, thematically, it is 10 out of 10. Mwah. It is chef's kiss. Absolutely perfect thematically. It is super fun, and I really, really love it. And rotationally, with this spec that's played with Diabolus, the rotation is very efficient as well. You have a ton of instant cast abilities like Conflagrate, Shadow Burn. You have the half cast times of your Chaos Bolt. You have the Soul Fire procs to cast that very quickly as well. So you're casting spells very quickly. You're dumping Soul Shards fast, which then means you summon more minions to come aid you in combat and just deal more damage. So it's a lot of fun overall. They just got massive buffs. And Destruction Warlock is just a blast right now after the buffs. I'm loving it. It's what makes this class fun to me. The nuclear damage is absolutely there for Chaos Bolt, and I really like it. So I think they're in a really good spot. Numerically, they just got a lot better. I'm not going to say they're the best in the game or anything, but they could be pushed into somewhat of a meta spot in between A or S tier, just numerically. I will have to do more testing, though, for Raid to really double-check on that Diabolus tree, but they're doing fantastic. I'm really excited them. They're very fun. Thematically, Warlock, everyone knows, is one of the coolest specs in the game, and I really like both their hero talent trees. They're very effective. The tier set's good as well. Okay, next up, we got the Kung Fu Master, the Windwalker Monk. You know what I mean? Punching and kicking people constantly. Listen, I think it's a little bit goofy. Let's be honest. It's a little bit goofy that you're running up to ethereal creatures and you're punching them right in the jaw. Let's be honest, let's stop messing around. But beside that, it's also pretty hilarious. All jokes aside though, when it comes to this tier list, if it was based off just a pure rotation, Windwalker Monk would absolutely be S tier bar none. Both of their tier sets are really good damage while also being really impactful for the rotation. Shadow Pan is really fun, but in particular, I really enjoy Conduit of Celestials this season, man. Pretty much, you have like a Super Saiyan buff that you try to keep up 24/7. It is a little bit complicated to keep it up, but during this window, you have increased haste, critical strike, and your cooldowns come back much faster. So that means you're literally, I just like to call it the Super Saiyan. You're just constantly smashing abilities, punching people, kicking them in the face, and you're just going crazy. And it's kind of funny, especially since I play, a panda monk. I'm out here doing this, and it's really cool to see. But the issue with Windwalker, I will say, there starts to be a problem that hinders the fun of, you have an AoE cap. Not only that, thematically, listen, Windwalker can be a little bit of a meme. If people don't appreciate, running up to void creatures and punching them in the face, you're probably not going to find this spec a lot of fun. You might think it's a little bit goofy, especially since I play Panda. So I think from a base perspective, I think they're phenomenal. Their tier sets are amazing right now. One of the best designs in the entire game. I like both their hero talent trees. They got some nice buffs. Overall, I really like Windwalker. You just gotta look past them thematically. Moving on next, we got the big old kitty cat, the Feral Druid, man. Now, listen, I'll say it up front. When Feral Druid has its cooldowns going, and you're popping everything at once, it's up there with one of the most fun and best classes to play in the game overall. I would really, really compare it to like Enhancement Shaman, Frost Death Knight, Fire Mage. You're getting those ginormous bites out. Your Ravage procs are going off. You're slicing, you're dicing, you're getting the bleeds on everybody. And I love trying to keep up the rip on everybody, the Blood Talon situation. I think it's a lot of fun. When it doesn't have its cooldowns up, it gets a little bit stale. Things start to slow down a little bit. Your APM drastically lowers. Your damage will shoot down. So you have to know you're going to die on that sword of, hey, during my cooldown windows, I'm one of the most fun to play in the game, Outside of them, I'm a little bit slow and I'm a tad bit boring. So that is something you have to keep in mind. Honestly, if you think about it, it feels like one of those Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King class designs where, you know, when you pop your cooldowns, shit is gonna happen. But then outside of them, your damage slows down a little bit. It's like drastic measures. So it is hard to balance that sort of thing. And it seems like Feral Druid is still in that sort of time period in a gameplay perspective. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It's just very specific in particular on the player style that would enjoy that sort of thing. I think their tier sets are kind of cool for both their specs as well. Personally, I really like Druid of the Claw. It is really RNG heavy and like, you know, RNG based because it's a 40% chance to proc an extra Ravage, which can then give you more buffs. So it is very RNG based, but, you know, throw that in there on top of the 2-minute cooldown Andy, you're going to have a freaking nuclear spec occasionally, and then sometimes it might slow down a little bit. So it might depend on what your gameplay style is. If you love burst, this is a great spec for you. Moving on next, though, speaking of big burst windows, we got the emo boy, the sad Havoc Demon Hunter. I've, you know, played them on PTRs and usually as alts, but I've never played them fully. But I'm going to be completely real. On the PTR, the Fell-Scarred Hero Talent Tree is super easy, and it deals a crap load of damage, and it's a lot of fun. It's very visually appealing. You go into Metamorphosis, you deal more damage with Immolation Aura, and your Demon Surges just hit hard as shit. It's as simple as that. Nothing has really changed for the spec. They're the same they've been pretty much all expansion, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you like what's going on with these specs. So that's something you have to take into consideration. It's the same old flying around, you're dashing, you got the big old eye beams, the explosive Fell-Scarred windows with Demon Surges, and visually, it's a very, very good class and spec overall. I don't want to make it too much about this, but the numbers are absolutely there. One of the biggest reasons and problems I never fully commit to Demon Hunter, though, is because I don't love Vengeance Demon Hunter as a tank, and you only have one other spec other than that with Havoc. They don't have a third spec to fall back on. Hopefully, they get that Void Demon Hunter spec soon, but personally, I never commit to them because it's just a little too risky for me. Placing my bets on one entire spec that isn't, like, phenomenal. The only specs I would maybe do that with this season are Frost Death Knight and Fire Mage. I would not do that with maybe any other spec in the entire game. So Havoc Demon Hunter, personally, I can't put all my eggs in that basket. If you like the Demon Hunter freaking whole theme and you like Vengeance as well, it's a very good class for you though, overall. Moving on next, we do have to talk about it, man. I hate to bring it up. The Arcane Mage, dude. The Arcane Mage is always top tier in every tier list anyone ever makes because the design is there, thematically they're there, the numbers are absolutely there, and they're just always great. Now, I will say, for me personally, I don't love Arcane Mage, but the reason I have them in A tier is strictly because of their tier set bonus and how often you're just getting tons of Arcane barrages that hit very, very hard. I'm going to be upfront and honest. I don't love Arcane Mage from a base design standpoint. I really don't. But their tier set's really fun, and the numbers are there right now, which of course means, hey, it's going to be a blast to play. I think if there's ever going to be sort of like a main hero, like to lead the story on for a mage, it's probably going to be an Arcane Mage, similar to like Khadgar. But I like the visuals as well. Arcane Barrage, Arcane Orb. Thematically, they're very cool. I just don't love them from a base rotational standpoint. Their tier set for Spellslinger is the creme de la creme. It's one of the best ones out there. So in that perspective, it's very fun. Without this tier set though, honestly, I would drop them down probably to a low B or C tier. So that is something you have to take into consideration. I think they get a lot more fun with the tier set, but a lot more boring without it. So if you want to make that investment, go for it. If you like them thematically, you should be just fine. Moving on next though, we have the Master of the Elements, guys. The Elemental Shaman. This is the end of the A tier, end of the line, guys. This is where things start to slowly droop down just a little bit in terms of overall fun. I'll say up front, actually, I don't mind Elemental Shaman. I like the whole gameplay style of, you know, using your Tempest, you get those instant chain lightning procs, you're spreading your lightning rods around efficiently, and then once you hit 150 Maelstrom, you dump it into a big Elemental Blast, into an Earthquake combo for the Echoes of the Great Sundering. I actually like it a lot, don't get me wrong. And don't forget, when you're a Shaman, you also have probably the best cooldown to press in the entire game, and that is Ascendance. It is the best cooldown to press in the game. It's the most fun. It's the most dopamine I could probably get in this game. pressing Ascendance, you duplicate all your spells, you get infinite Maelstrom, you're dumping them into more, Elemental Blast, Earthquake combos, and the damage is just awesome. So it's really, really fun. Not only that, you have a lot of utility for your group, so it's a lot of fun in that case as well, if you like to support the group rather than just deal pure damage, so that's really good. And then moving on, I think their hero talents are thematically phenomenal. You have the Farseer where you're summoning ancestors to help you. You have Stormbringer where you're just doing a lot of lightning stuff like Emperor Palpatine. I think that's cool as well. Both their tier sets are pretty good. I would say specifically Stormbringer is the star of the show here. Farseer could use some more buffs, but if we're talking about just pure thematics and levels of fun, I think they're both very, very cool as a caster. The only issues for Elemental Shaman, I would say, is there could be times outside of your Ascendance window where things can feel a little bit stale, where you're kind of just spamming Chain Lightning, praying for those Mastery procs, and then you're trying to dump them into Elemental Blast Echoes, combo windows, and it can be a little bit stale. But don't forget also the visuals for Elemental Shaman are phenomenal. They have some of the best visuals in the entire game. Overall, I don't think they're boring. I just wish they had a little bit more outside of those Ascendance windows to keep it really, really unique and fun. Moving on next to the start of the B tier, ladies and gentlemen, we do have to bring up the Frost Mage, start of the B tier. Now, listen, I'll say overall, I don't think Frost Mage is boring, but it's really not that fun either. Let's be honest. I think a big reason for that is, honestly, believe it or not, the animations. The animations for Frost Mage are bland. They don't feel impactful. They don't feel like they have any weight to them. The only spell that really feels good to press is like Comet Storm and then Glacial Spike. Other than that, everything else just feels like filler. It's all bullshit. It's the part of the anime you don't like to watch. We want the juice. We want the main episodes. You know what I mean? And I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand the reworked visuals for Blizzard and specifically for Frozen Orb. I cannot stand the reworked visuals for Frozen Orb. It actually pisses me off when you think about it, because when I first played Frost Mage, it was back in Mist of Pandaria where like the Frozen Orb did that really awesome spin animation and had all that things going on, and it looked awesome. Now, it looks like a pile of dog shit. It's terrible. I don't like it at all. Frost Mage, at this point also, when it comes to rotation, they kind of become like this combo point generate, spender into Glacial Spike situation with the Icicles. It's not bad. It's just, It's just kind of okay. It's decent. It's nothing too unique. Like I said, I don't think it's boring, but I don't think it's the most like fun spec out there. I think it's just about middle of the pack. Frost Mage can get boring thematically also. You're literally just a Frost Mage. That is what it is. There's nothing really going to change that. So if you ever wanted to try Frost Mage, I think they're on the rise. They're going to do really good this season, I would say. I think you could give it a shot, but personally, just know there's not that much build variety and the theme can get a little bit stale and they need improvements on visuals. Moving on next to probably a lot of people's surprise, I'm actually going to take Arms Warrior and put him up here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think this is a bad thing. Now, Arms Warrior is very straightforward. You take a big two-handed sword, you charge in there, and you're just swinging like a madman. And I think there's some really cool stuff involved in that. I think thematically, it's the most classic thing you can have. The Conan the Barbarian angle, the two-handed sword zug angle. And I think it's really cool if you like that sort of thing. It's very specific. I think what's really awesome to me about Arms Warrior is when you have all your cooldowns going, you charge in there, you avatar, you get everything going, you're blade storming, you're cleaving, you're AoE mortal striking with sweeping strikes, and everything is just getting chunked down. It's a lot of fun. We're hitting sometimes 8 to 10 million damage cleaves, 12 to 15 million damage demolishes. So what I love about Arms is that their abilities feel weighted. They feel very impactful and heavy, but there are other times where everything just feels very stale. Outside of your cooldowns sometimes, it feels like you're just nothing but filler and there's really not much going on and you're just praying to get in that execute phase so you can deal some more damage. So there are some times where things feel phenomenal for Arms and other times where things feel very stale. Personally, I've been really loving my Night Elf Warrior lately. I might pick him up as an alternate character this season just because how much fun and thematic it is. It's just classic, you go in there two-handed sword and you're swinging at shit and you're trying to kill things. I think it's very cool. I think it's very particular if you like that sort of gameplay style. It's very on the nose. You either like it or you don't. Simple as that. Moving on next, though, we have, to a lot of people's surprise, the Demonology Warlock. Now, listen, they're the master summoner, ladies and gentlemen. I think thematically, Demonology is one of the coolest specs in the entire game. Bar none, summoning a bunch of minions to do all of your bidding from hell. kill all your enemies, do your dirty work. I don't know about you guys. I'm a huge sucker for pet classes in MMORPGs. So for me, Demonology, it checks a lot of my boxes for me personally. I would say my problem with Demo right now, though, is that the fact that the best build on the PTR is Soul Harvester. In Soul Harvester, a lot of their damage, pretty much most of it, comes from Hand of Gul'dan. To me, that's not fun. That's not very thematic. I want my Felguard to deal a lot of damage. I want my Hounds to deal a lot of damage, my Imps, and especially the big boy, the Demonic Tyrant. I want it to where when I pop Demonic Tyrant, things are going to die. And right now, Demonic Tyrant isn't really doing that at all right now. It's kind of just like a mediocre cooldown, unless you're playing Diabolist. But I'm going to be honest, I think thematically, Demonology is doing really good. I just want them to go back to that good identity of Season 2 where your pets are dealing all your damage. I think that's where Demonology is at its best thematically and even just the most fun to play in general. So they're really close to being one of the better, like more fun specs to play in the game. They just got to go back to, you know, what they're really known for. Moving on next, ladies and gentlemen, we do have to talk about the very first rogue spec, the Assassination Rogue. Now, they have been my favorite rogue spec forever. I used to love Vendetta as ability. I thought the, you know, icon on it was just so cool, but I love the idea of applying bleeds, poisons, dots, all that crap, and then I re-stealth and I let them just die with all the bleeds on them. I thought it was really, really cool thematically, and I think it fits the idea of what an assassination rogue is. My biggest issue with rogue overall in general, and you're going to hear this a lot when we talk about the other specs, is that I think they probably have the most boring, unimpactful, unthematic hero talent trees in the entire game, and I do not think it's even close. They don't even come close to comparing to specs like Death Knight, Shaman, Monk, Mage. It's not even close that these, you know, with their tier sets and their hero talents, they drastically changed their gameplay and thematics. Based on one click of a button, you can completely change your gameplay style. When it comes to rogues, it's just all passive. It's boring, the visuals aren't there, it's unintuitive, it's uncreative, it's unimpactful to the rotation, it's just not fun. It's not fun overall, and it's a really big letdown to me. So I will say, if you ever liked the Assassination Rogue gameplay style, listen, it's going to say the exact same this season. You're going to go in there from stealth, you ambush to get your Deathstalker's Mark proc, your Garrote, your Rupture, your Crimson Tempest, everyone gets dotted with bleeds, and then you're just doing your Caustic Splatter, big chunky Envenoms with Shiv, and that's about it. Nothing is going to change during that, and that's just going to be the way it is for, I guess, the end of time, since the last 2 expansions, they haven't changed Assassination. Do know that right now, numerically, Assassination is actually performing very well, and they just got some buffs, so they could be, you know, in that A tier, maybe even potentially A+ tier, numerically, so that is something you have to think about. But if you like Rogue, they're exactly the same, nothing has changed. They could be pretty fun to you. Moving on next, we actually have a big surprise with the Unholy Death Knight. I'll say thematically, I've always really loved Unholy. I don't know about you guys, but summoning the minions of the undead from Icecrown to come and do my bidding and help me in combat and kill my enemies, that's a really cool thing. You're a big, badass lich in armor. You wield a big two-handed weapon, and you're up close and you're personal, and you are quite literally the master of undeath. There's not much cooler than that if you like that sort of darkness gameplay style. So thematically, I love this spec. Now, gameplay-wise, I think this is where we start to see some issues. This is where we start to see some problems. I don't know about you all, but Festering Wounds is not a fun gameplay variation. It's not fun. Popping and, you know, applying Festering Wounds, it's not fun. It's never been fun. I think Unholy is at its peak when you're summoning a ton of minions, you're dealing diseases, you're doing those mortal coils, those chunky mortal coils. Maybe you summon a gargoyle to come rain down hellfire on enemies in combat. I think that's what makes Unholy cool. Not I put a pussy wound on you and I pop it with my sword. That shit's lame, and it's really unthematic and just bland, in my personal opinion. And I think it's kind of sad because I think Unholy probably has some of the coolest, you know, thematics in the entire game. I will say on the PTR right now, Unholy Death Knight, from a numeric standpoint in Mythic Plus, they have been performing really well. So if you're still interested in Mythic Plus, Unholy DK is still doing good. More than ever, you're summoning a lot of Magus of the Dead, which are these like dark skeletons that come out in AoE cast Shadow Bolts. So thematically, I think that's cool. But I think we need a lot more of that. I need you to double down on it, Blizzard, and give me more. Give me archers that come out. Give me gargoyles. Give me abominations. And I want all of it. I want to summon the literal army of the dead from Icecrown, and I want them to just do my bidding. Feed into Unholy Death Knight's thematics, and I think It'll be a lot more fun and just way cooler to balance than Festering Wounds and AoE popping for strength buffs. That's not fun to me. And then one last thing I want to address is that single target wise in a raiding environment, Unholy DK is still awful. So if you like raiding, you're probably going to struggle a lot on Unholy Death Knight. Moving up next, ladies and gentlemen, we actually have now the Survival Hunter. Now, I'll say this. I will say I actually don't hate Survival Hunter. I just feel like their class fantasy is kind of missing for me personally. You're just a two-handed hunter and you have a pet. That's kind of it. I feel like they don't lean into that design standpoint heavily of like traps, bombs, poisons, explosives. They don't lean into that enough when it comes to rotational perspective. And for me, it kind of feels like Survival's lacking off that point from a class theme perspective. Nowadays, it feels like it's just missing. Not only that, they don't really have an offensive cooldown that feels great to use, which Coordinated Assault, to me, it's not fun. I don't really care what anyone says. It's just not an impactful cooldown. But I will say from a base rotational standpoint, I actually like them. I don't mind, you know, building those tip of the spear procs and then using them on hard-hitting abilities like Wildfire Bomb and Explosive Shot. I just would really, really appreciate if we double down on it. Give me more of that. Give me poisons. Give me traps that do a shit ton of damage. Maybe summon a minion that just explodes. I don't know. Give me something cool that makes it be like, oh, that's a Survival Hunter animation right there. That looks awesome. I didn't know he was even here helping us in this raid. To make me feel like I'm playing a Survival Hunter, because all there is right now is just Wildfire Bombs. That's literally the only animation that's like super unique. Even then, it's just not enough. There's a reason why Survival is one of the least specs played in the entire game. And I think thematically, they're just not great, and they need to see some improvements. Numerically right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's important to note that actually Survival Hunter is doing very, very, very well. So if you like numbers and you like Survival Hunter as is, their numbers are really, really great. So if you like them and you think they're fun, they're absolutely going to be a blast for you. Moving on next, we have the Scale Boy, the Devastation Evoker. Devastation is one of the classes where, like, during your cooldown windows, everything feels phenomenal, especially at the start of a raid fight. You know, you pop your Bloodlust, you get the most benefit out of your mastery that you can, you pop all your cooldowns, you're dealing a bunch of damage. Outside of these cooldown windows, I'm going to be honest, the class starts to get pretty boring pretty quickly to me personally. You start to quickly realize that Devastation literally has like 2 to 3 buttons in their rotation, and it's not really that fun to press. I like doing the empowered abilities. Those are cool, but outside of that, you don't really have much that feels fun. So for me personally, that's kind of the reason I never main them or even pick them up as an ult. Not only that, if we're talking about a class thematically, I think they really should give you know, the Evokers the opportunity to transmog with armor. Like, I don't know how this is still a problem. We can't transmog with all of the gear that we collect through playing World of Warcraft, and I think that's one of the bigger issues why a lot of people don't play them either, because a lot of people like transmog. Shit, I know I do. I love being able to transmog on my like other characters, and the fact that I can't do it on my Evoker, it really pisses me off, because they come out some really cool tier sets occasionally for Evoker, and I would like to transmog into them, but I can't. That's kind of an issue. You guys can clown me as much as you want in the comment section below. I like to transmog. I like my character to look cool. It makes it fun for me. I would say the saving grace for Augmentation and Devastation is that the Scale Commander tree on the PTR is really cool thematically. You know, you summon, you know, 2 Evokers to come down in combat with you. They aid you in combat. They deal damage. They follow you around. I actually think that's freaking awesome thematically. So from that standpoint, it's really good. The numbers are okay at best for Devastation, so you got to think about that. And I think the cooldown burst windows are really fun. Outside of that, the gameplay gets very stale. You're casting a couple buttons, and that's about it. So outside of those windows, they're kind of lacking. And thematically, personally, playing as an Evoker isn't that much fun, especially if I can't transmog. Moving on next, we do have the King of Mythic Plus, the Balanced Druid. I hate to be that guy, but personally, I don't find Balanced Druid fun. You can hate on me. I think Moonkin is kind of goofy a little bit. I don't like the design of it. Don't get me wrong, I like Astral Form. I think that's kind of cool, but I don't really like, from a gameplay perspective, Balanced Druid in general. I don't love the whole Eclipse thing. I think it's outdated. It's got to get reworked. I think they have one of the worst designed, you know, spec-specific talent trees in the entire game with balance. And in Mythic Plus, it's kind of crazy that they're meta every single season. And then in Raid, they're absolute hot dog water. It makes no sense that there's no sense of balance at all for Balanced Druid. S tier Mythic Plus, absolute hot dog water tier in Raid. So I just think, honestly, the spec needs a complete rework when it comes to the talent spec individually. Maybe not the theme. I think Balanced Druid has a, like, you know, a theme, and it's there. It's just not personally for me. Some people like it, some people don't. I personally am one of the guys who don't like it. And then lastly, when it comes to their rotation, it's kind of just bland to me. You put Moonfire, Starfire, you get into your lunar state, you build up astral power, and you spend it on Starfall. That's pretty much it. I'm not trying to sit here and rag the spec for 20 minutes. I don't want to be that guy, but it's just not really something for me personally. Maybe some of you guys feel different. I'm sorry about it. It is what it is. Moving on next, lastly, for the Hunter, we have the Beast Mastery Hunter. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I hate Beast Mastery because I've always loved my pets being the center point of a hunter in general. I actually think that fits thematically, and there's a nice character story behind that. I loved playing Beast Mastery Hunter in Classic and TBC. I thought it was very cozy, very chill, and I thought your pets back then felt super impactful. Not only that, I don't mind Beast Mastery Hunter's rotation, you know, constantly using Kill Command, Bestial Wrath, and stuff like that every 30 to 40 seconds. It's fun. I just think it's getting a little bit crazy at this point because we're summoning like 9 to 10 pets out sometimes at once, and quite literally a zoo is being summoned, and like you're just summoning a zoo of animals, and it's kind of like ridiculous. It's kind of a little much to me personally. I like there to be like uber strong, like 2 to 3, you know, 4 pets max. And for example, that's kind of the reason why I love the pack leader hero talent tree, because when you summon those pets, they're actually impactful. You summon the bear, he does a shit ton of AoE damage. Your wyvern, really good single target. And I think thematically it fits perfectly. So from that standpoint, I thought they did really well. I just don't like the idea of summoning all these pets. I think it's a little bit goofy. And then lastly, when it comes from a raw gameplay perspective, I think their focus generation is a little bit low, and their APM is among some of the lowest in the entire game, which can be kind of boring. So if you like a lot of actions per minute and you're spamming abilities a lot, this is absolutely not the spec for you. If you like your pets doing most of your work, this is the spec for you. And if you like things being very simple, straightforward, and easy to learn, Beastmaster will be a lot of fun for you. Okay, moving on now to our very first C tier spec. We have the Affliction Warlock. Now, the C tier is honestly the specs that, in my opinion, need some serious work rotationally heading into the new expansion. I think they need either a rework or a major overhaul or update, because I don't know about you guys, when I think about an Affliction Warlock, I think about damage over time. I think about melting your face with curses, corruption, agony, to just melt you slowly over time. I think that's what Affliction is really about. The problem is in gameplay-wise, you only apply your dots to amplify the damage of your Malefic Rapture. Malefic Rapture, I cannot stand pressing this ability. It is the most boring ability to press, probably in all of World of Warcraft. There is no animation to it. You're just spamming it over and over. Visually, nothing's happening. And it's just there. I don't know. It's really annoying to press. You could do some crazy burst numbers with it, don't get me wrong, but it's just not fun. I think it's a really horrible and lazy way to design Affliction Warlock. I miss Affliction Warlock being about damage over time effects, you know, just draining the soul out of enemies slowly over time. I would love for like them to have like a soul shard finisher where maybe it's like every 30 seconds they can AoE drain soul and just suck the life out of everyone. That also like doubles the speed at which your dots tick over time or something. I don't know, something cool that fits into that damage over time thematic standpoint. I don't know, but I just don't love it. Also, them not having 2 charges of Vile Taint while Shadow Priest has got 2 charges of Shadow Crash, yeah, it's a pretty big issue for me. It feels like a slap in the face to the spec. I don't understand how they don't have that yet. It makes no sense to me. And honestly, I'm not being biased here or anything, but Warlock was my main class last season, and they're probably going to be my main heading into this new season. And the fact that Affliction didn't really get a Vile Taint update once again is a little bit frustrating. So hopefully they get some updates because they're really quite clunky in terms of Mythic Plus. Moving on next, ladies and gentlemen, we do have the Augmentation Evoker. Now, the only reason I have Augmentation this low is because you guys would kill me if I have it higher. No one plays this spec, and personally, I don't mind Augmentation. I actually find them kind of fun. If I had it my way, I would probably place them somewhere, I would say in the B tier, around here, maybe near Arms Warrior Demo Lock. But you guys can't stand them, so I don't want to get killed in the comment section. I don't mind the gameplay style of buffing teammates and buffing allies. I think there's a thematic standpoint there. I think it has an identity, and I think it's something cool as long as it's not meta, because everyone wants to kill it when it's meta. I think they could also do a lot better of a job designing abilities to buff your allies. I think Ebon, Might, and Prescience is a little bit bland and boring. Just I don't know, in my opinion, it's just not fun. And then when it comes to like trying to track your damage, it's all broken on the details meter. So like you don't even know if you're doing really good or not. That makes things kind of suck. And then also a lot of people don't love the idea of buffing teammates that you aren't close with. Like if you're not playing with friends, augmentation is a nightmare. Do not play augmentation. Like if you're not playing with a guild or a raid team or a group of friends, you will have a nightmare. That's probably why a lot of people don't find this spec a lot of fun. I personally really like the scale commander tree on augmentation for the PTR. It's a shit ton of fun. Your eruptions hit for like 6 or 7 million damage crits. It is actually hilarious how much damage you can do. So it's a lot of fun during your, heavy hitting burst windows. But outside of that, the spec is okay. I think it can get some improvements. Hopefully they make some changes, and I would love to play it in the nearby future. Next up, we have the final warrior spec. We have the Fury Warrior. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to say this probably a good amount in the next couple of minutes. I do not like button mashing gameplay. Spamming buttons over and over in a priority rotation, to me, is not that fun personally. I don't like it. Specs like Enhancement Shaman and Fury Warrior, Outlaw Rogue, these are priority-based rotations. Where you have a chance for something to happen, and then you do X, Y, Z. I don't love that. I like having set rotations, knowing what I need to do in order, and then if I do it properly, I get good results from that. I don't like RNG. I don't like base chance. I don't like priority. It's annoying. I've never found that kind of fun. Fury Warrior is the embodiment of that. Not only that, Fury Warrior's button mashing is one of the worst in the entire game. My wrist, as a 26-year-old somewhat adult, is killing me when I play a Fury Warrior, and I don't like that feeling. I don't like my hand being in pain. That's just not fun to me. They did just buff Fury Warrior the last couple of weeks, so they have saw some buffs numerically, so that's kind of cool. The damage is, like, honestly quite there now, which is really impressive. I don't love spamming buttons over and over. I would love for them to just rework their personal talent tree as a whole. Get rid of Single-Minded Fury as a talent, just make it a passive or just a transmog option, and I think there'd be some quite interesting things happening to them. I also don't like Bloodthirst and Raging Blow being filler abilities. They feel like shit to press, and it's not fun, and the only buttons that actually feel good to press are Rampage and Thunderous Blast, which even then are kind of whatever. So all in all, I don't love the button spamming angle of, Fury Warrior. I also don't love trying to keep up the Whirlwind buff for AoE damage. So I think they could use some improvements, and I would love to see Single-Minded Fury at least as a transmog option heading into the nearby future. Moving up next, we do have the Outlaw Rogue. Listen, I'm going to be very, very upfront. This is one of my least favorite spec designs in the entire game, bar none. It's not even close. I know there are some die-hard Outlaw Rogue players out there that are probably going to come for my neck in the comments, but personally, I can't stand the design. I actually hate it. Outlaw Rogue is that gnat that constantly hits you in the face that just annoys the shit out of you. It has pretty high consistent damage, but that's literally all it has. There's never really any massive burst windows. Both the hero talent trees are just completely passive. They're thematically incredibly boring. I cannot stand the design of crack shot resets coming out of stealth. I don't like the design of rolling dice to see if I deal good damage. I don't like the design of flipping coins as fate-bound, and I just don't like Outlaw Rogue as a whole. I don't want to be a hater here and bash on the spec for 20 minutes, but they're easily my least favorite design spec in the entire game when it comes to a base gameplay rotational perspective. If I had it my way, I would change them back to Combat Rogue, but the problem is Combat Rogue thematically, it just doesn't exist. They're like, what is a Combat Rogue? There is no thematics there, so that kind of sucks. On top of that, Outlaw Rogue has the highest APM out of any spec in the entire game at like 90 actions a minute, and my hand is killing me after just a couple of minutes. I have to change my mouse because it's probably going to break how much I'm pressing the same button over and over. It's not fun. I don't like it. I hate to say it. Not my favorite spec in the game. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, we do have the Subtlety Rogue. Now, I think the spec is designed to be a very hyper bursty, nuclear priority target damage dealer. So pretty much every season for Mythic Plus, Sub Rogue is kind of bottom tier, whether you like it or not. There are also some occasional times in raiding where Sub Rogue could be good, but from a base design perspective, they're just not meant for a lot of content that people enjoy, which is Mythic Plus and solo stuff. Personally, I love the idea of using Shadow Dance, Shadow Blades and all your other cooldowns, pairing it with Secret Tech, and then, getting into those big finisher windows where you're using those crazy finishers with coup de grace and stuff. I think it's kind of cool, but at the end of the day, I just feel like they fell flat when they come to their hero talent trees in general, and especially with their tier set bonuses in general this season. They just don't seem fun, and I don't feel really connected to Sub Rogue anymore. I haven't for a really long time, and I feel like we didn't get anything to bring that closer or a step in the right direction this expansion or even this season, so it's really sad. I feel like they missed a mark pretty hard here, and in my opinion, it's probably the least fun spec to play in the game from PvE perspective. It's kind of like a Fire Mage, where if you have improper usage of your Shadow Dance and Shadowy Blades cooldowns, yeah, your damage is going to suffer so bad, it is going to be terrible. I wouldn't mind if Shadow Dance is just reworked and maybe it goes on like a 30 or 45 second cooldown, but during your Shadow Dance windows, like your Shadow Strike, it hits really, really hard, and then maybe you have some sort of finishers that deal some good AoE damage. Because right now, I don't like it. I don't like it at all, and I think it needs to be changed for PvE. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this list is all about having fun. Of course, there is some very minor numbers involved here, but this was about how the classes were feeling rotationally, how their tier sets were designed, and how they feel involved in the gameplay, if there's enough gameplay variety within that said spec, how the spec is thematically heading into the new patch, and then, all of this personally for me will determine how much fun I've been having with them on the PTR. So I hope you guys check this out. Here is the list. Try not to bash me too hard in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the next one.
One last note we wanted to make. If you're looking for a guild or people to progress through Mythic Plus with or raid with next season, the Comeback Kids are recruiting, and any and all players are welcome to come on down, play with us. We're looking to fill out some new members for the raid.
Oh my god, we fucking did it. Oh my god, let's fucking go, bro.
If you're on the Horde, you can simply just go to the guild tab and search up the Comeback Kids, and we should pop up. Make sure you do have the guild size on any so you can actually see us. Either way though, if it doesn't work, you just use the Discord link in the comment section below. Hop in there and verify, get yourself in, and then we can get you invited by you posting your name and server under the guild invite tab.